Adam, what do we know about Mike McCarthy's future with the Cowboys?
Laura, the two sides are moving on from each other. The Dallas Cowboys are going in a different direction, and Mike McCarthy is now a coaching free agent, free to speak with whichever teams he wants. The Bears put in last week and were denied permission by the Dallas Cowboys to talk to him. Well, Mike McCarthy now can go ahead and talk to the Chicago Bears about their head coaching vacancy. The New Orleans Saints also are expected to have some level of interest, and the Dallas Cowboys will launch a head coaching search a little while after other teams have. And it's an interesting timing here because essentially Bill Belichick has gone to North Carolina. Mike Vrabel has accepted the job in New England. And the Dallas Cowboys can't speak to the coordinators on the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Norton, Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo, and Matt Nagy, because that window essentially is expiring and there are no plans to talk to them. So Dallas has limited itself to a certain extent, but this is what Seattle did last year when it moved on from Pete Carroll and wound up hiring at a later date Mike McDonald, the former defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. There's now a massive challenge in front of Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys to find a successor to Mike McCarthy, and the Cowboys' search for a new head coach is now underway.
Cowboys to part ways with Mike McCarthy.
Look, Mike McCarthy over his tenure was 50-36, and he had 3 years of winning 12 games, and obviously the conversation around Dallas revolves around, can you win, make a deep playoff run and win a Super Bowl? I think we're beyond what the record is going to be in the regular season, because if the regular season record mattered, I don't think Mike McCarthy would be out of a job, especially the way he was able to galvanize the team at the end of the season when they had absolutely nothing to play for. It's always about the culture, though. What's going to change? Are you going to hire a coach with enough cachet, Jerry Jones, to come challenge you in your office when you want to do a certain thing and you feel like he has enough cachet to stand up and look you in your eye and say, nah, we're going to do it this way? I thought we had that with Bill Parcells. He went and signed Terrell Owens without Bill Parcells wanting T.O. to come to the team. Right. So that's an example of maybe there's not a coach out there with enough cachet. And then the other part is, do you revisit somebody like a Kellen Moore who's been in the organization, who knows how to function and been in that temperature before? It's going to be interesting to see the hire. But the most important conversation that's going to revolve around Dallas is, like I said when Mike McCarthy got hired, will the head coach be able to do his job?
Who should they call, Dan?
I would call Jason Witten. I would call the ex-tight end, the Hall of Fame type tight end. He's doing a phenomenal job coaching right now. You're talking about cachet. Most of these coaches that are out there in the kind of coaching interview world, they're not going to walk into Jerry's office to command something. Yeah. But a guy that played that way for them, will it be too early? Absolutely. But at some point, I mean, I understand the Kellen point. I don't think it's going to be Dion. Steve Sarkisian is interesting to me. But go entertain Jason Witten, who you know everything about. He obviously has the track record within the organization. And see if you can go find, I say this all the time, Sean McVay. When the Rams signed Sean McVay, they knew it was early.
Right.
You might be a year too early, but everything you hear about Jason Witten as a coach is lights out.
Yeah, and I think the difference is, how does Jason Witten deal with adult men? I believe that's going to be the issue when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys coaching job, is that they actually have two jobs. They have to learn how to manage a locker room and coach a team and be in the right places schematically, and then they also have to be able to manage the owner. And so you're pulling double duty for your entire tenure. And when you think about a Sean McVay, the one thing we knew about Sean McVay was, from a schematic standpoint, is that he was a genius.
No doubt.
And now it was about how would he relate to adult men in the locker room, being of young age. He obviously answered all of those questions. And whether it's Jason Witten, Ben Johnson, or whoever it is, you have to figure out, if you're Jerry Jones, what's most important to me? Is it most important that I continue to keep control of this team, or is it more important that I give somebody the reins that can win me a championship?
Mina, whoever the coach is, what's first priority personnel-wise for this person?
Yeah, first of all, I think this is an attractive job as we consider the landscape right now, especially with the Patriots job filled.
If you're not dealing with the bull,
yeah,
you're right. But football-wise, yes.
You got a quarterback. You have young talent on both sides of the football. You have superstar talent on both sides of the football, which is not true of all of those other jobs, quite frankly. Yes, to answer your question, Laura, they need to get better in the trenches. Obviously, the run game was an issue left this year. You had a very young offensive line. I think you can keep building on that. They do need to add offensive talent. Defensive tackle remains an issue with this team. But top to bottom, this is not a bad roster. I think it would be very appealing for a young offensive-minded coach. Witten, that really took me by surprise that we said
Cohen?
that. Yeah, I mean, I think the names that we're hearing, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, obviously. Joe Brady is another one. I've just been so impressed watching that offensive.
Is it for you, though, just the same sort of names we're hearing for every job should be the people the Cowboys look into?
Specifically young offensive names, yes. And I don't think that's true of every job. It might not be the case with Chicago, for example. But this team, watching them, so clearly needs an offensive refresh. And I feel like you got to bring in someone who has that kind of mind.
One of those young offensive guys, just, Jerry, How does Jerry vibe with that?
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it because they're subordinate immediately.
And also, haven't they all been? They've had the past two guys been offensive-minded guys.
Yeah, like
Yeah, but no. When Mike McCarthy was hired, was any of us like, wow, here comes a fresh offensive reset?
No, but we got 15 years of in Dallas, kind of like the offensive-minded coach.
But the other thing is too, it's an offensive-minded coach that doesn't have any creativity in what they do offensively. That's going to change what they work.
We've been here with Jason Garrett. That's what the Jason Garrett hire was supposed to do. It was supposed to be the young offensive coordinator. I was on the team when Jason Garrett was the OC making more than the head coach Wade Phillips.
Right.
Like, he was in waiting. So they've already explored this young offensive coordinator guy, and they probably kept Jason longer than they should have in order to be in that search. Another name I'm going to throw out there, which could be very interesting if something comes down the pipe, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
I think it would.
I mean, I think if you were Dallas, you'd be like, yes.
That's like a
I'd trade for
CEO
him.
type.
Absolutely, but if it grows old in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something. Did you see this coming? Mike McCarthy, the guy who led us to 3 straight playoff seasons, is officially out as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. After a rough 7-10 season, his contract is done, and so is his time in Dallas. But think about it, this is the same coach who helped hold the team together during tough times, dealing with injuries and chaos. Sure, the season was disappointing, but can you really blame it all on McCarthy? Here's the big question for you. Do you think he deserved another chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I'd love to know where you stand. And while you're at it, let's do a quick poll. Was letting McCarthy go the right move? Type YES if you agree, or nitrogen monoxide if you think we made a mistake. Alright, but this is just the beginning. Things get even more interesting when we dive into Jerry Jones and the contract drama that might have sealed McCarthy's fate. Stick with me for that in the next part. Alright, so here's where it gets a little murky. Jerry Jones, the master negotiator himself, seemed pretty committed to McCarthy earlier on. But when it came time to actually put pen to paper on a new deal, things took a turn. You see, it wasn't just about McCarthy's performance on the field. No, it was all about money. Jones wasn't exactly eager to commit big-time cash, especially when you look at what other coaches are making these days. I mean, head coaches like Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh are raking in $18 million and $16 million a year, respectively. Meanwhile, McCarthy was stuck at $4 million, tied for 15th among NFL coaches. Here's a question for you. Do you think McCarthy had a point in asking for a raise, considering the circumstances? Let me know in the comments, and vote in the poll. Do you think Jerry should have given McCarthy a bigger deal, or was he right to hold back? Now, let's talk about what happens next. Because with McCarthy gone, the Cowboys have a major decision to make. Now that McCarthy's out, the Cowboys are officially on the hunt for their 10th head coach. And if you're wondering what kind of candidates Jerry Jones is eyeing, let me tell you it's going to be interesting. There are some big names out there, and the pressure is on for Jones to make the right move. You've got coaches like Sean Payton, who's been highly sought after, and maybe even some surprising names like Jim Harbaugh. But here's the thing, it's not just about picking a coach who can win regular season games. We need someone who can take this team all the way to the Super Bowl. But here's the wild card. The new coach might not even be the offensive coordinator, even though McCarthy took on that role. Jones could be looking for someone who's purely a head coach, and that person will need to bring in a strong offensive mind to handle things on that side of the ball. What do you think, though? Who would be your top pick for the Cowboys' next head coach? Throw your suggestions in the comments below, and don't forget to vote in the poll. Are you more interested in a big-name coach like Payton, or do you think we should go for someone with a fresh perspective? So now that McCarthy's out, what does this mean for the future of the Dallas Cowboys? Well, it's no secret that this franchise is at a crossroads. The new head coach will need to take this team to the next level, meaning we can't afford to waste Dak Prescott's prime years. The clock is ticking and the pressure is on for whoever steps into that role. The Cowboys have the talent, especially at quarterback, but it's all about the pieces around Dak. It's not just about winning regular season games anymore. This team needs to be built for playoff success. But will the next coach be the one to break the playoff curse and lead us to a Super Bowl? I'm curious, how confident are you that the next coach can finally take us to the big game? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And while you're at it, take the poll. Do you think we're closer to a Super Bowl win than we were last year? Alright, now that we've looked at McCarthy's departure and the coaching search, it's time to think about the road ahead for the Cowboys. No matter who takes the reins as head coach, there are going to be some big decisions to make. Not only will the new coach have to shape the team's culture, but they'll also need to address some key positions, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The Cowboys' future could go one of two ways. We either find the right guy who can lead us back to the promised land, or we face more years of disappointment. But you know what? I'm holding on to hope. Jerry Jones isn't one to sit idle, and we've got a chance to turn this thing around. So what do you think the Cowboys need most going forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to vote in the poll. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the Cowboys' future under a new head coach? Thanks for hanging out with me on this journey. Let's see where this off-season takes us.